Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Seasons 4 in Second Level Questions, where we have our guest, great friend of mine, Mason Murawski. If you've been down to our events, you might have seen him, but what you probably didn't know is how crazy and awesome his life is. He travels all over the world. He's an internationally recognized videographer and photographer. He's been to, I think he said, over 22 different countries. And we talk about how that travel, his passion for travel, his passion for people has affected his relationship with God, his relationship with people, his faith in general, and how he thinks that your faith is got a missing piece if you're not traveling and doing the same. It's a great podcast. I hope you enjoy it. Let's get to it. Okay, I really am glad you're here.
Thanks,
Mason Murawski.
Awesome.
Which how do your family say it up north?
Murawski. Don't say that. It's fine. It's Murawski.
Murawski?
Yeah.
Okay, Murawski.
It's good, strong Polish name, SKI.
You are, number one, you're one of my kids' favorite people in the world.
Oh, thanks, man.
I need you to know that. I meant to tell you that earlier.
I love them so much.
They ask about you a lot. You are one of the most interesting people in the world to me because you are an international man of mystery in my head. You are a photographer, videographer, who has lived what seems like 1,000 lives. And we've even kind of, I'm trying to remember, I think it was a minister's retreat. You and I were joking / debating.
We're always joking about something.
Actually, it was camp. Okay. And I was like, you have the best life in the world. And you were like, actually, you have the best life, talking about me, like wife, kids, and whatever.
Sure, it's all perspective.
It's all perspective, right?
Yeah.
But I think something we can agree on is your life is very unique. I mean, you've told me stories, everything from building or decorating malls in China for Christmas.
Absolutely.
Which, how old were you when you were doing that?
This was in 2017.
Okay. So however old you were at 2017.
28.
28. Okay. So you're doing that to where another job we talked about was you were on a Navy aircraft carrier?
Yep.
Taking pictures of...
Well, I can't tell you what I was taking pictures of, but I'm joking. Yeah, I was photographing the sailors. It's fine, but we'll have to... Yeah.
But like you were telling me about that crazy story, you were just in Japan. I don't know what that was for.
Also for a Navy carrier we had.
Okay. In the Philippines?
Yep. So it was off the coast of the Philippines, so that's where I walked onto the carrier. I was on board for 9 days photographing, and then they flew me off of the carrier. So you get on these CODs is what the planes are called. And,
I love it when you say words I don't know.
It's everything in the military is an acronym.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I don't know exactly what it stands for, but it's basically outgoing male, people who are quitting the military, somebody who's injured or somebody who has a family member back home who's struggling, and then random civilians like myself. And they put us on this plane, and we have helmets and eye and ear protection, and then these float coats in case the plane goes down. The back of the door, the ramp comes down, you walk onto the plane in the back, and then you're facing the back of the plane, you strap in, and then they kind of do the fingers, 3, 2, 1. You can't hear anything, but you see them doing it, and then you just hear this, and they shoot the plane off of the deck of the ship, and you go from 0 to 150 miles an hour in 2 seconds, and you just feel this, and then you're off, and you're just floating above the ocean, and it's beautiful, and it's thrilling, and it's terrifying all at the same time. It's nothing I could have imagined that I would be doing when I first got into photography and design work, but it's a lot of fun to be a part of.
Which, meanwhile, I've never been on a plane that I didn't have to go through, like TSA.
Oh, so if we're talking about that, Japan really does not like that I show up there all the time without my passport stamped, and then I don't go through any security to get my passport stamped.
Because it's military?
Because I fly on a military plane and land on a military base, and I came from a ship in the middle of the ocean, so no one really understands that concept. It doesn't fit into the the box,
the system.
Yeah, and they're looking through the book like, well, do you fit in this category? No. Do you fit in this category? Okay, so I'm not. I don't work for the government, and I don't work for the military, and I'm not just a civilian that's visiting.
Yeah. It's like I'm civilian plus.
Yeah, it's super weird. There's only one of me doing this, so so I have to explain this every time to them, but. One of my IDs that I had on the back of it said property of U.S. government, because I think IDs.
You are the property of the U.S. government, or the ID is?
Well, either way, I just flipped it over and I'm, at immigration saying, you see, it says property of U.S. government. That's me. I need to be sent back to the U.S. But whether or not that's about me or the ID, it worked. They gave me the stamp and sent me through, but it's always a bit of a fiasco trying to get through. Other times that I did not have my passport stamped, I was on a military carrier off the Straits of Denmark.
Gibraltar.
Oh. Yeah, pretty much. But
where's Gibraltar?
I don't know, but we need to go there. Yeah. So this is the point. You need to.
You and I can find.
Look it up. We should go.
We can find Gibraltar. We've got two guys behind the camera. Can you find Gibraltar for us? This is what the cool podcasts do. They pause and then they reference someone behind the camera.
Yeah, we'll find out.
We'll find where Gibraltar is. You're in Denmark.
So I got on board the ship in...
Gibraltar is in?
It's a British overseas territory.
Spain. All right. So Noah gets a point there. All right. Spain, South Coast. That sounds like a great place for us to go visit.
Yeah, it sounds beautiful. Let's go. I'm available next week. So
I am not, but we'll work it out.
Bring your kids. I really like the concept. You said, well, you have this life and I have this life. My dream, Arin, is to take your life and my life and combine them and make that my life.
That's my dream too.
So yeah, I don't want to just be your personal photographer and travel with you. I do want to do that. That's one of the things I do. If anybody's listening to this podcast and they'd like to hire me for a family vacation photographer, I do go on the vacation with you. You pay for everything and you pay me to be there. And then I create a really nice album for you guys. And I'll photograph anything that happens unless it's going to be a life or death situation.
Wow. So that seems,
that's a niche.
Even that seems like a niche market for very wealthy people that
it is.
I would have never met.
I learned about it at a conference in Vegas, the WPPI conference. It's actually coming up in about a month. But
I feel like we should have an acronym counter for this podcast.
It's Wedding and Portraiture Photography International. So, and that's the second or eighth one, right? I might have used other ones, but at least the second. So,
at least the second, yeah.
But what was I going to say?
You were in Denmark.
Yeah, I got on in Poland, and then the ship went out for a handful of days. This is during the Ukrainian-Russian start of the war.
So this is not like in 2019. This recent.
Was recently.
A year ago or so.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. Yeah. I believe it was the fall of 22 or spring of 23.
Yeah.
But so everything's kind of hot, and there's, Russian jets flying over, and the sirens are going off, and I'm like, I don't get paid enough for this. I'm literally a civilian photographer on board. And so you have these feelings, am I going to get hazard pay or war pay or whatever it's called, But
you were CFP, CPP, civilian photographer person.
Correct, but not the CPPP, which is the USSR or whatever acronym from back in the day.
Really?
Maybe. Isn't that a Soviet thing?
We can check it.
Yeah, CPPP.
CPPP? 3 Ps, 2 Ps.
# not communists. Okay, so anyways, the plan was to fly me back off of the ship. Is it a Russian acronym or no? CPPP? Yeah. Well, that's one of the things. Anyways,
that's a different.
We'll take that. Yeah.
Scratch the acronym off. Doesn't count.
So I was supposed to fly back to Poland.
Yep.
And then fly back to the U.S. that way.
Yep.
But somebody signed a document that said that we could fly on a day that they decided or in a spot where we would be in a no-fly zone. So the ship was where we thought it would be that day. It just turned out we couldn't fly from there, or the next 2 weeks in the Straits of Denmark. So I looked at this sergeant or whoever was in charge and talking to me, and I said, you need to figure it out. So I don't have to tell them what the next job is that I need to be at.
Mm-hmm.
I just need to tell them when I need to be on and off of the ship, and they need to figure it out. So the next job that I had was technically a wedding. It was a pretty nicely paying wedding in Virginia, and I needed to get back for that, but I didn't have to tell them that specifically. So they found
the rule a little bit.
Yeah. So they found a small boat from this guy named Jan, he's like 65, maybe he's 67 now. But anyways, we're friends on Instagram, and he,
which for those of you who don't know, Mason has found the limit of friends on Facebook.
Oh yeah.
It's what? How many is it?
5,000.
5,000. He's like just that kind of connection type of guy. All right, back to the story.
And to add to that, I would only add people on Facebook I'd met in real life. So people would try to add me, like the
So you've
boyfriend
met
of somebody,
5,000
the girlfriend of somebody.
people?
Yeah. I've met more than that and connected with people and try to keep in touch with lots of people. It's really interesting. That's my life.
It's your life. That's
So-
that's why you're here.
Right. So, so Jan sleeps for a week on the southern tip of Denmark and delivers mail and people to ships passing by. And he's a delivery boat. And then he goes back to his wife an hour away in this city nearby and stays with her for a week, and then comes back and does this thing for a week where Jan was delivering a pilot to come to the ship and help them navigate through the Straits of Denmark. And
not Gibraltar.
Correct. And he brought that person to the ship. So they have these guys who are like brand new to the Navy, essentially, being taught how to tie knots, how to coil ropes.
Yeah.
Everyone's bossing them around. Like they're the lowest guys on the totem pole, essentially. And they were the guys who tied my gear bags to rope and lowered it down the side of the carrier, which gave me more of a heart attack than
because you've got how much money in
down.
Equipment in those things.
Yeah, and if I lose the photos from the job, what's the point of even going home? So
and you're basically relying on a rookie's knot.
I literally told them, like, hey, if you drop my stuff in the Straits, like, I will stay on the ship and not go home because there's no point in me going home. So I was more afraid of losing my gear than falling myself. Now, they also didn't give me any like security, anything.
Harness.
Yeah, they just dropped this Jacob's ladder down the side of the boat, and the pilot climbed up, and then I climbed down the side of the carrier, and I was off. So I get in the boat with Jan, and he has it just cruise control going towards Denmark, and he says, get to the back of the boat, and he's just on his iPhone taking pictures of the sunrise and this massive ship, and we have these great photos. It's really pretty, but I was also thinking, like, wow, we're just going really fast and no one's piloting this boat. Yeah, and I don't know this guy. And so we went past this wind turbine farm, and he said that he sometimes delivers packages and parts to the people maintaining the wind turbines that are in the water there. It was beautiful, very futuristic.
As
really
a
cool.
as a DBP, delivery boat person, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah. All right. Well, definitely. So
I found what you meant by USSR, by the way.
what'd you find?
It wasn't PPPC, it was CCCP. Which is
Oh, 3 C's, not 3 P's.
that's
Gotcha.
the Russian, like in Russian, that means USSR.
Oh, okay. Cool.
There you go. So you were right.
You were right.
Sort of, yeah. So,
We give credit.
all right, great. Thank
Mark
you.
it.
That's good.
Acronym.
All right. The Daily Double. So I appreciate it, Jonathan. That's awesome. Yeah, so then I get to the southern tip of Denmark. There's a pier. There's an aviators school there, and they put my stuff up on the dock, find me a taxi. I almost get in a taxi that's not the correct taxi for me. I don't know where that was going to take me, but I was in it, and then they said, oh, wait, this is the wrong one. So I get in this taxi with this guy, and he takes me to this town or city that's an hour away, the closest city. And I explained this story that I just told you guys on this podcast.
Yes.
And then I basically asked him for a stamp on my passport for entering his country. And it was at a police station, and he spoke English and sounded Australian because he had learned from an Australian person or something, but he was
That's a
Danish.
wild story.
Yeah. And so then I get back in the car with my taxi driver. I'm very exhausted. We're driving to Copenhagen. And
Mazel tov.
This is why you need to travel the world. And he tells me that his sister is a plastic surgeon in Los Angeles, and that his sister worked on Cher. This checks out. If you know anything about Cher, she's had
a little bit of work done.
a little bit, so
Touch-ups.
yeah, she looked good before, but
Age finds us all.
life finds a way. So I didn't wear my leather jacket today, sorry. But a lot of people say that Jeff Goldblum and my dad kind of look alike and would get
That
along.
is true. I've met your dad. And you give off Jeff Goldblum vibes.
I'll take that as the highest compliment anyone has paid me, Aaron.
Take it as such.
And that concludes this episode.
This podcast. You're still trying to get out of Denmark.
Just kidding. Yeah, well, I'm not trying to get out of Denmark. Now I have 2 days in Copenhagen to just kick around and fly my drone and take beautiful photos of whatever I want and hike around. It was such a great, young, fun town. So I had a good time in Copenhagen, felt really safe, met a bunch of young people our age, and just had a good time kicking it. And then went from there, I flew to Toronto, and then from Toronto back to DC here, and then I drove a few hours back home. So
that seems like a wild turn of events all the way through. But you've had experiences like that all over the world.
Pretty much, yeah.
So can you just name me places you've been, like cool places?
Okay. My favorite place that I've ever traveled is Iceland. Huge fan of it. Don't just go to Reykjavik. Go see everything else that the island has to offer. It's the land of fire and ice.
Yep.
And so they have black sand beaches and pink sand beaches and white sand beaches and yellow sand beaches. They have volcanoes. They have lava fields that are cooled lava. They have mossy patches of everything. They have basalt columns. I've seen the hexagonally shaped, naturally occurring basalt columns that occur in the Faroe Islands, in Iceland, and in Northern Ireland. And to see them at the Giant's Causeway in Northern Ireland and match that with what I know about the basalt columns in Iceland, it's just phenomenal to think about the world, and how it may have broken away in that particular spot. So I don't know if we're allowed to talk about that on this podcast, but yeah, Pangea.
Yeah, who cares? Who cares what people believe?
Funny, yeah. Well, we want them to,
You got to get to the second level of that question.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Do you believe it was Pangea? Do you believe? Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I don't think it's a salvation issue question.
Agreed.
So, anyways, I've been to China. I've got a 10-year visa to go there, so I'd love to go back. It's a work visa, so I was working there for a few weeks. We might have touched on that a little bit.
Doing the malls?
Yep. I was
decorating malls in China for Christmas.
For a production company based out of Pennsylvania, and that I worked alongside for 12 years. And they found me straight out of college. And, I put a little resume together with my friend Arin because, the female version, because she helped me make a resume. And since then I haven't made a resume at all.
There.
I've got a really absurd list of things that I've done as odd jobs and whatnot before photography. But,
yes. Ice cream.
Ice cream is one of them. Yep. So I worked for Ben & Jerry's for 13 years total.
That is nuts.
And it was my first job. And then I became a manager and co-managed with a guy named Brian. And we had a great time there. It was right on the beach. All my friends would come visit. And the owner is like another dad to me, the owner of Ben and Jerry's at Yorktown Beach, Bob Duramo. He saw in me this drive that you talk about, this desire to get my art out there, this desire to show photos from around the world to people. My first year out of college, I traveled to the Dominican for a mission trip. I traveled to Haiti for a mission trip separately. I traveled to Costa Rica and Panama to visit a friend who was studying abroad for a semester. I was living illegitimately in a dorm at Old Dominion University, or ODU. Yep. So there's an acronym for you.
There you go.
And living with some friends, and my buddy came in and said, "Hey, do you want to go visit Caroline for a semester, semester abroad? We can go there for our spring break." And I was like, "Yeah, that sounds great." And then I reached back out to him. I said, "Yeah, you can come visit on your spring break. I actually forgot that I'm not in school right now and I'm done. I can go anytime I want." So I just went for like 4 or 5 weeks down there, and I said, "You can come visit me on your spring break." So I flew down there. That's actually my first time flying by myself, was out of the country to a Spanish speaking country. And I took French in school. So it's part of my testimony and stuff. But great experience. I went from there. I met this girl who was like a tour guide from Argentina, and she was trying to find out stuff about Panama. We hiked with some other friends we met at a hostel across this wooden bridge to enter into Panama. And then you pay this small fee for entering the country, show them your passport, and then we split a taxi to the coast. And on the coast, we paid approximately $1 to get in a boat that took us to Boca del Toro, where they had these beautiful like swings in the water. They had a swim up bar. I don't drink, but it was really a neat place to see the fish, and you could swim and have a drink there at the same time. It was really neat. Surrounded by docks that went out into this blue water. And for $3, I rented a hammock that hung off the side of the dock. And then you got a little bug net, and that was your bed. And you got a little locker to stick your things in. And then for like also $3, you could get 3 plates of food for a 3-course breakfast, and you would love it. It's just you talk about like putting our lives together. I think you and I both share that idea of, or that sense of like adventure. Like you and I both like to do fun things. Just kind of like my dad has a line that I always use is like, as long as I've got a credit card and like a passport, I can figure the rest out. You know, like. I always say you should always pack a backpack and always carry your passport. Like I'm ready to go at any time. Like right after this podcast, we could just go straight to the airport, and I could fly to any country that would allow me to fly there without having to apply for the visa beforehand.
So this is a question, because this is going to lead into the second level that I want to get into. It's so interesting that anybody who's listening, I think, probably has a gap that Jonathan and I have talked about a few times, where they're like, well, I don't have enough money, or I don't have enough this, or I don't have enough time, or I don't whatever. And he actually mentioned this morning, he was like, it's got to be easier than I'm making it out to be in my head. And you have this sense of adventure, this traveling thing that you've mentioned is directly called or tied to like your calling, and this idea of like, God has given me this purpose to go out. So what is something you would say to somebody? You can even look in the camera and be like, this is probably something you're missing that I'm living. And like we said, not everything is great, grand, and glorious about your life and your job and everything, but something you have that is unique is that you have traveled and you've seen a lot of different places, a lot of different cultures, a lot of different things, and that's, I'm sure, has formed you in some way, even spiritually. And that'll kind of be the second level question. But if someone is trying to dip their toes into this, like, maybe I can stretch myself a little bit, how do they start? How do they get there?
Yeah. Okay. So you want me to look right in the camera and say, I believe this is biblical. Go ye. Like,
yeah.
Right?
There you
go.
go.
Do it. Just, that's the first step. What do they say? Step out of the boat. Or sometimes in this particular situation,
why?
step
Why
onto
should
the
you step
boat
out?
and then take the boat to Gibraltar. So,
Exactly.
go there. Sometimes we'll just psych ourselves out, right? Isn't that a term you say where you just, well, I have this going on, or I really need to do this, or
Yeah.
I'd like to save up a little bit more, but there are cheap airlines. There are, if you can't afford to travel internationally right now, just get in a car and drive to one of our national parks, or maybe just choose, a destination you haven't been to and go there and maybe stop at a couple things that look interesting along the way. My dad always used this term. He said it's a phrase, the journey is the destination. So the destination isn't the destination. Don't be focused all the time on the destination.
Yeah.
Be focused on enjoying the time that you're having while you're having it.
Mhm.
So,
like right now, we're doing this podcast.
yeah, absolutely.
It's a blast. Like it's like
I'm having a good time with
like,
you. Yeah, I always have a good time with you.
well, and hanging like we're gonna
Yeah.
hang out today, and it's gonna be a good time. But like I agree with you. I think so many times it can be like if I get to this place, even in life, it's the same thing. If I get to this level of success, or if I get to this job or whatever, and we work so hard to get there, then I'll have success. But then you get there, you realize, oh man, like I was having more fun
Sure.
during the journey. So, but like you have a particular opinion, and this is what I want to really dig into. And so this is a question. You have told me that traveling and seeing other places and people and things is an intricate part of your faith.
It absolutely
shifted
is.
your faith.
So
Get on your soapbox. Tell me about it.
I would have to say that I'm not trying to get political in any way, but I do see that it's extremely important that we get out of America. I think that if whoever's listening, I think it's important because we have so many things that are so many touch points. As the U.S., we have our hands in every other country.
Yep.
We are looked at by all these other countries. There's this joke where people who live outside of the U.S., they say, what's the name for somebody who knows 3 languages? Oh, they're trilingual. What about somebody who knows 2 languages? Oh, they're bilingual. What about someone who knows 1 language? They're American. So that's the joke. And in some ways it's true because our education system doesn't seem to focus on it so much. But I have such a heart for this. I'm from a small town of Gloucester, G-Town, what's up? But
Is that kind of an acronym?
G-Town?
Yeah.
I think that's a conjunction with like a letter in front of it.
a hyphen.
Yeah. So
All right. We won't cut that.
I don't know. But anyways, and it's like, it's a beach town, hick town, everybody's confused town. But
Everybody's confused.
you have but you have this small town mentality, and I love our country. It's beautiful. We have so many beautiful places to visit. Like I'm saying, get in a car and drive and see see the Grand Canyon if you've never been. Hopefully later this year, I'm going to hike down to the bottom of the Grand Canyon and camp out down there with my nephew's stepdad. But like just the whole concept of traveling outside of the U.S. and seeing something that's different really touched my heart, and I would help fundraise. I started fundraising for the youth at our church over the years when we were going on these mission trips, when we had these opportunities to go to Mexico, to go to the Dominican, to go to Haiti, to broaden their worldview. We're riding around in the car, we're hanging out with the youth, and they're, complaining about this, complaining about that. And I'm like, our lives are phenomenal. We're so blessed. Yeah. We have everything and more. And it's really going to rock your world to go to another country and see things a little bit differently. And so I definitely pitched that to a lot of the adults, a lot of those people who can sponsor youth, and was just really passionate about it, Arin.
Yeah.
So God didn't say, and there's nothing in the Bible that says like, and then God created the U.S. and that's it. Like, it's just important. We're a world. We are.
And his creation was perfected with the United States of America.
Yeah, that's like a line from Mean Girls or something. But anyways, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. I don't want to quote the actual quote on here, but
yeah.
I do, but I won't. But the point
we'll put
is,
the clip in the show notes. They can get it themselves.
Yeah, of course. But the point is that just like we are as Christians, we have this. There's a division. I've heard this somewhere. I don't know if it's correct, but there are 22,000 sects of Christianity. Christianity is divided, and we all believe in the one God. We believe in Jesus, and we are divided. And so here we are as a world, and we're divided into these countries. These boundaries are just created by men. They're man-made lines.
That's a good point.
Demarcation, lines of, delineation or whatever. And so one of my friends is a teacher, and they were just talking to me about teaching students about boundaries. And, sometimes they're invisible. We don't, sometimes there's a wall, a physical wall. And then sometimes there's just you've crossed into this other space. When I was in Ireland, the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland, I'm driving between both, and I don't know which one I'm in at any given point until I'm trying to hand money to somebody, and they say, "Oh, heck no, we don't support this kind of money, and I can't believe that you would bring that here." And it's like, okay, I'm a tourist. Like, I don't know which country I'm in, and a lot of the world may not even know that Ireland's divided into two Irelands.
I did not know that.
Now you know. So,
I mean, I've heard Republic of Ireland or Ireland and stuff.
Sure.
I didn't know
one's,
that
so one's part of the European Union, I believe. They're using the euro, and the other side is not. But yeah, the UK, my dad and I took time to hike around the UK, and to catch trains and to drive around. We took a ferry. We made like this fake. We made a fake MTV Cribs video on another ferry, and I skated on top of it and stuff. And that was out to the island of Victoria, British Columbia. I've been to over 20 countries. I've been to a lot of countries multiple times. I've been to Haiti maybe 10 times for mission work. We have missionary friends there who grew up with my mom. And some of the most heartwarming and heart-wrenching photography that I've done has been photographing for a Canadian organization indirectly that helped get children sponsored for lunches, for school, for uniforms, or for donkeys and chickens and things like that. That's been some of the most, gratifying photography to be a part of.
So one thing that you mentioned there is like this idea of like mission trips. Like you had a bunch of them when you were younger.
Oh yeah.
And I think you kind of put this I think there's a shift in how we look at mission trips the younger you go. Like when I was a teenager, it was like, we're going to go help them. I think more and more we've realized that mission trips aren't for them. They're really for the people going to expand their minds and see who, like, yes, you do help people, but like this idea that we from the States are going to go teach or help or fix everybody else's problems.
That's the Western thought, isn't it?
Yes. And I think
and then when we turn 18, we're going to move out of our parents' house and start our own thing. And, we're going to have the American dream that everybody from every other country is trying to move to America.
Yep.
Or if they're not, we think as Americans that they want that. You know what I mean?
Yes, that's a good point too.
We're pushing our Western thoughts on these other countries. So it is very important to go. I think short-term missions are important. I think long-term missions are important.
But what you're talking about is kind of different. It's you're not talking about tourism, and you're not talking about missions work. You're talking about kind of this third thing that you've created in your life, which is I'm living in experiencing a lot of things. And that's, I don't think that's how that doesn't fit into the American dream. That's not like a normal thing. Cause what you do is you get your thing and then you build your thing. right? That's the American way is,
Right.
like you said, 18, grow up, college, whatever, build my business, build my dream, build whatever, my job, my career.
Sure.
But what you're like
It's kind
is
of
you're like,
me.
yeah, exactly. But you've kind of like you literally look through life through a different lens, right? Where you,
Good one, Arin.
thanks, where you take
Hashtag Canon, Team Canon.
yeah, okay. I don't know anything about anything.
It's like Sony, Canon,
Whatever.
Nikon.
It's cool. You guys get cool pictures. Yeah, we're Canaan right there.
Nikon.
So
Anyways.
you guys I think there's two things if I were to kind of psychoanalyze you for just a second.
I've never been diagnosed.
Well, I'm not accredited.
I'm sitting very still. I do not have what you think I have.
I think your life is spent looking at other people and trying to capture their moments. And I think that's uniquely formed you because for most of us, it's the opposite.
One time I was on a mission trip. It's not local, but it was to New York City with a good friend, Dennis, and he was leading a group of us from a young singles adult ministry to work with the homeless in New York. And I'm sitting on the bus and I'm chatting with him while he's driving us up there to take soup and clothing and to pray with these homeless people in the city. And it's a very short-term thing. But this thing that he said to me really struck me as important and unique. He said, Mason, I think that you found the key to happiness and the key to living a life that is fulfilling, and it's sharing in life, everyday life with other people. So experiencing other families' lives, experiencing the life that, you welcome me into your home and I am a part of your life for, an afternoon, or I'm a part of your family's life for, I'm playing with your kids, I'm helping you cook dinner, whatever. I'm getting to experience a little snippet of your daily life with you by driving across the country and visiting, or getting on Facebook and saying, hey, you still live in, Berlin? I'm coming out there. I'd love to visit you, kind of thing. And just bridging that gap and really growing myself culturally and education, and then simultaneously growing my friends.
How's it changed your faith? That's the question I really want.
So
home.
let me tell you a little bit about my testimony, if I can. So when I've always been a Christian. I grew up Christian, grew up Presbyterian in my mom's church she grew up in since she was 3. And within that, I then went to college and was, hold on, let's backtrack a little bit. I was taking French in school. Mm-hmm. A lot of my friends were making fun of me for taking French. Everybody takes Spanish. They're like, yeah, it's like the second most useful language in America, in the U.S. And then I said, yeah, I just feel something in my heart. I'm supposed to take French. People were, dropping out. There were fewer of us as the years went on. I took 7.5 years of French.
Dang.
So I was, I was really committed.
French?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Oui. Bien sûr, mon ami. So that means, of course, my friend. But I definitely didn't know why I was taking French, and I felt like maybe they were correct in putting fun at me for continuing it. But then my best friend at the time growing up, Kester, he decided, why do these missionaries come from Haiti and talk to us once a year and ask for money, and we never go there and see what they're doing? They show us pictures. It was one of my favorite Sunday schools. Every year, once a year, we'd come together and we'd watch these slides or these photos or whatever that they have brought from different water projects and different schools and churches that they're building. Some of it funded by European Union, some of it funded by, the churches that they went around to, et cetera. But he broached the idea of us going and getting involved. And so when we looked up stuff about Haiti, we found out that it was a francophonic, French-speaking country.
Yep.
And then they also speak Creole. And so I learned Creole, and that empowered me to be able to be a translator for a lot of the teams going down there. And we did a lot of hands-on work, building churches from the ground up, and working on water projects and wells, cisterns to capture water, and even vacation Bible schools.
Nice.
So I cannot stress enough, if you have a tug in your heart and you're feeling something about you traveling somewhere, whether that's out of the country or to another city, God is working in your life. You need to listen to that tug.
Yeah.
This is that tug right now. This is God saying it. It's those feelings that you have, those little tiny things that the Holy Spirit's stirring up inside of you. And God is preparing cultures to collide, preparing
That's
for education between peoples, about peoples.
That's good.
So from there, I started going to the Assemblies of God Church Lighthouse. I've been going there for over a decade. And with him, we did Hope International Ministries trips to the Dominican Republic, and they had Spanish translators all ready to go to work in the slums there. With the medical mission trip, I was there ready to serve however I needed. I wasn't sure how I was going to serve or what I was going to do, but I was then amazingly surprised that God had placed all of these people who came across the border from Haiti to the Dominican to learn. Learn new trades or to work in the trades there to get these jobs. Yeah. So we had all these French-speaking people
in
coming,
the Dominican, which shouldn't be a thing.
It is a thing, though. It's just like
it's just
like here where we have people coming from Mexico for opportunity, just up to the U.S. It's the same thing. There's more tourism in the Dominican.
Sure.
There's more opportunity, and people are coming from Haiti to the Dominican. So we had these moms and children coming to our clinics, and I had to learn all of this French that I may not typically talk about in English with people, about, women's reproductive stuff and whatever, but it helped them, and we were able to get the medicine for people. And it was great, just translating from Spanish to English to French. Yeah. And then here's your medicine.
You know the line that you said that makes me go like, that right there is what I think a lot of us don't get a hold of, is you're like, I didn't really know, but I went. I went.
That's the point.
Yes.
I didn't know what my purpose was in going on that trip the first time I went. And I went again, at least one other time. But I think I've been to the Dominican 3 times now. They've all been medically related mission type work. The last time I was on,
which isn't your profession,
I was on the USS Comfort, photographing off the coast, and they were bringing people from land on these little boats to the ship to administer medical attention to them. But that's the point. You go, even if you don't know why. If you're feeling it in your heart, you should do it. And so once I got there, then God showed exactly what my purpose was in that time, and I was able to help people by translating for the Haitians.
Well, I feel like people are so afraid, myself included, to fail at something. And it's like, what if I go and this happens? Or what if we go and that happens? It's like,
you go and you learn.
You go, you learn, and I have a line.
We can't learn if we don't fail.
100%.
You can end the podcast right there.
Right there.
Cut. But don't. Okay, so anyways.
I tell Davis, one of my lines with him, when we're doing something, he gets really frustrated easy over some stuff. And I go, hey, is it better to know or is it better to learn? And he goes, it's better to learn. And that's my way of getting like, you don't have to be good at this, but you do have to learn while we're doing this,
Yeah.
right? And I think what you're talking about going to other countries and getting different experiences, getting different cultures. I remember being on a trip and like a mission trip and being that guy who thought that, oh, we're going to help, and then your heart breaks, and then you realize, oh my gosh, like we have it so good. And specifically, I remember coming back and being at a youth conference, a youth convention.
Yeah.
And a pastor was sitting backstage, and I was talking to him, and we were doing a big missions push. And I'd seen this mission. My heart is broken for these people, right? And I'm like, man, I wish we could raise, I think it was like $30,000 in a night for them. And someone was like, yeah, but these kids, they ain't got no money. They're from inner city, whatever, or they're from rural West Virginia, or they don't have a ton of money or whatever. And the pastor next to me goes, they don't have money? There. And he's pointing, and I'm like, what is he pointing at? And he's pointing at every pair of Jordans he can see. And that's one of those things where I was like, is it wrong to have Jordans? No. But when you take your frame of reference and it's kids in Ecuador, and you're like, oh, and then you have a different frame of reference now in the States, and now you start comparing those two, and you're like, we're not that far from raising that kind of money if we change the priorities, but you can't change the priorities unless you see something that makes you change your priorities.
That's faith, yeah.
You're never going to change your priorities sitting in your couch, sitting on your chair. You're never going to care enough through a TV.
You're not. You have to go there.
Experience is the only thing that does
it,
I think.
So when I was going to Denby Presbyterian, which is now Denby United Presbyterian, someone broke into our church and they vandalized it. Our church caught fire. They set fire to it, and it didn't burn down, but a lot of damage was caused. And in Haiti, in Pascatabois, one of the small towns that we worked in Western Haiti, the people at some of the churches there took up offerings for our church in the U.S. That had been helping them over the years. And so that was extremely powerful.
Yep.
And we accepted that money because who are we to not accept from others? And then, we're called to give, but we're also called to accept. God uses gifts in so many different ways. But, it's just, you're right. So many missions organizations, they talk about, for just a cup of coffee a day, you can help support another kid in another country. We did this really neat thing where we took, we created cards out of the photos that I took in Haiti, and it was like a photo of a donkey, a photo of a well pump, a photo of a school, and some other things, right? A photo of a kid with a uniform on, and a photo of chickens. And there were, I think, 5 options or something like that. And through the church, we sold these cards basically to people. So they were donating money for gifts around Christmas time. And they would give that card to someone and say, hey, we helped purchase a donkey for a family, and that's going to change their lives. Instead of getting you some Jordans that you didn't need because you have 7 pairs. Or whatever.
You didn't have the new blue ones.
Yeah, if you're...
I don't know how Jordans work, but...
I don't either, but yeah. But if you're feeling a tug, this is the tug.
Exactly.
So, I've bought shoes off the side of the road in Haiti because I went to Haiti and my shoes had holes in them and were busting at the seams, and the missionary was with me, and he said, your shoes are worse than some of the people's here. Like, we need to get you some other shoes at the market. Anyways, but a teen could go experience a mission trip outside of the U.S. and come back and really shake things up in their own community. They could get involved in Youth Alive missions here. They could tell all of their friends, hey, we don't have it so bad. We have all of these amenities. We have more than we could ask for. And you're just complaining all the time. You're posting on social media. You're just on TikTok like, yo, this place sucks. I need to get out of here. And well, get out of there or start raising money for people who are in more remote areas in third world countries who could really use some assistance. So That being said, I also really feel like it changes worldview of the teenagers. And if you can catch it early, it's going to change a generation, and it's going to change our world and bring us closer together.
I think I couldn't agree with you more, because working with teenagers, I think one of the things I've noticed, especially with teenagers who were focused on like evangelism and pushing them to do bigger, like figuring out what their call looks like for them. And one thing that I've unexpectedly learned is that when students really get it, their calling is unique. It's not like, oh, I'm called to be a pastor blank, right? Mm-hmm. When they're really called, they're like, I have this group of people that I'm really passionate about. I'm not exactly sure how I'm going to fix that, but that's what I want to fix. They're not called to a profession. They're called to a people, or they're called to an issue or something like that. And so when students go to another country or another culture, another people group, and they get to see and their heart breaks for something, that's when I think God adds that unique calling. I think your life is a perfect example of what unique calling looks like. Hey, I went to school. I decided that I was going to kind of pursue this. I want to be the guy who's telling the stories of not just here, but all over the world. And then what that has led you to, that idea of like, go, I don't know, but I'm going to go anyway.
That's right.
Is
take the opportunities.
Take the opportunities that are in front of you and just go. Even if you don't know, if it leads nowhere, you still went. You know, like I think in my youth pastor days, I was pushing students to just get out of town. And now in my Youth Alive days, I'm pushing kids to get out of town, get out of their state, go somewhere else, because you don't know what opportunities are there. And you'll find your calling when you start moving. But most of us want God to like drop our calling in our lap and give us the booklet on how it's going to go. And it's like, did I ever think I was going to be the Youth Alive missionary? No, not a clue. But I started. Did I know what this job was going to turn into? No, but you start.
But you went, yeah.
Do you know what being a parent is going to be like? No, but you figure it out along the way, and you allow God to invest in it as you go. And I think that's just something that we've got to get better at. I think that's something that, and I'm not just trying to toot your horn, but like something you are such a great example of. Exactly. And I know that, we joke about, when you get married and having families and how that's the missing piece, whatever. When you do that, you are going to marry those two things together, the life you have now and that, because it's going to be a part of this passion and drive that God's already put in your life. So it's going to work. You're not going to live a completely different life. You're not going to turn into a different person. It's just going to be enhanced by these other ingredients that God adds to the soup, So I'm pumped for what that's going to look like in the future, but I couldn't think of a better person to bring on to the podcast to go, look at this crazy nutcase of a human being. And the way he became crazy is not really that crazy. Like the pattern to get there was just, all right, God, I'll go. Absolutely. And wherever I feel that tug, I'll follow that thing. And I'll reach out to people, and I'll listen, and I'll care about them, and I'll become a part of their lives. And before you know it, I won't have enough Facebook friends to, like, enough room for all the Facebook friends I have. And those are people I've met. And those standards that you have in practices are such a good example. And I, even listening you talk, am challenged in a great way.
Well, I have to say that when you said just experiencing it yourself is the best form of education. Education is the key to our advancement as people, our advancement as Christians, our advancement as evangelistic Christians. Yeah. So if we're going to evangelize to people, if we're going to show Jesus to other people, we need to understand who we are sharing it with. You didn't just go into ministry working with teens and know everything about a generation that was, a little bit younger than you. Yeah. You're still learning it. You're still trying to figure it out. And TikTok's changing it every week. So, every 2 weeks statistically. But the concept of being able to stop racial prejudice, to being able to have people go to another country, interact with people from another country, and come back to the U.S. and say, man, maybe I shouldn't be as abrasive with, that guy from this country or that guy from this other country, like
the Pakistani store owner that I don't quite understand, and it just irks me. Or
sure, but he has taken the time to learn our language to try to open a store in our country,
to live a better life,
to possibly get away from something. He could be a refugee. He could be, I have friends who are refugees from other countries in the Middle East. I have people are trying to bring their families together when they can't even get green cards to be in the same country together. They're looking for opportunities. A lot of times people from Jonathan's age to our age are looking for educational opportunities, internships in other countries to help them get out of a situation. But the other side to that is that we as Americans need to not think that we have it all figured out, or that we have the thing to offer, that we're going to go fix. I think you touched on it briefly. We're going to go fix stuff. Well, we don't need to go with that mentality as much as we need to go with, we're going to go listen
and learn.
We're going to go hear. We're going to go experience another culture. I was in Tokyo just 2 weeks ago with these guys I met. I met a guy from Dubai who started talking to me, Ahmed Ali, and then we met a guy from Chile and Ricardo. And the three of us just decided, hey, we get along really well. Let's go sightseeing together. Let's talk about life together. And one of the things that we talked about was just how important it is to spend time with people of different cultures, and how important it is to see life through someone else's lens. So the things that we like about other countries are the things that are different than our country.
That's true.
So a lot of times we as Westerners go and complain, well, the room was really small, or they had these weird shoes. They wanted me to take my shoes off and then put some other slippers on and walk around, or there was a bidet. I didn't even know how to use it. Whatever.
I have one at my house.
So, is it a $5,000 European toilet?
No.
Oh, okay. You don't have to answer that for ministerial purposes. Anyways, but just there are differences in culture, and those are the things that attract us. So if we go from our country and try to change things in another country, we are saying we know better and our culture is better. And that's what we need to change. We need to go and listen. We need to go and say, hey, what problems are you dealing with? We would love to be a part of and walk with you through this, because that's what we do in ministry here in the States. We work with these teens and we say, hey, I know you're going through it at home. I know you're going through it in your relationship. I know you're going through it in your relationship with God, but we're here to walk with you through that. And we want to hear from you what experiences you've had that brought you to this point.
Leverage that in a different way.
Yeah, it's going to change your faith. It's going to grow your faith by seeing more of what God's made, because in the Bible it states about how he, created this wonderful world, and then he took time to rest. And so within that rest, we need to go see God's green earth. And it doesn't just stop here. It's not just right here on American soil. It's
everywhere.
It's in the jungle. It's in the river. It's on the glaciers. It's in the caves. It's in the bustling cities. It's everywhere.
I think what you're asking people to do is to participate with more of God's creation. And I think that's a really cool thing.
Absolutely.
I think it's something we can all do.
I don't think he called us to be pew sitters. You remember pews?
Yep.
Not all churches have them anymore, but
that's not an acronym.
That concept of being a pew sitter is just, you show up at church, you listen, you get fed, and you leave. But there's no fruit. You're not going out and living community with other people. God calls us to be in community with one another. God calls us to be in community with people who are not like us. Get out of your bubble. Get your kids out of the bubble that you've created for them.
There you go.
Really make that bubble pop and just get out there to the other countries and experience. It doesn't matter what age your kids are. It doesn't matter what's going on in that country. If you have faith and you have enough faith, you can go anywhere that God has created an opportunity for you to go. So that concept of not having enough money, or these kids may not have money to be able to go do it. If you want to go do something, or you feel that tug in your heart that I was talking about, then you can go and do exactly what it is that God's placed on your heart, because God will make a way if that's what he has in store for you and for your story. And then your story becomes intertwined with someone else's story, and you could be sharing the gospel with and living life with and experiencing new things with someone else in another culture.
That's so good, man. Well, look, here's how we like to end the podcast. You get 20 seconds to look in this camera and say something you feel like they need to take home with them.
Not just is it important to go places and experience new things and to listen to the calling that God's placed on your life, but if he has placed something on your heart that is creative or that is structured, if you're organized like we were talking about, or if you are creative, either side of it, you need to follow those passions and follow what you are feeling that God has created in you, and see what God has in store for you and where you can take those talents that he's placed inside you.
There you go. Hey, you mind praying us out?
Absolutely. God, we ask for your hand on our lives. We ask for your hand on everyone's lives here listening. And we thank you for all the listeners. We pray that many people's hearts will be changed and touched. Pray that somebody listening to this podcast will buy a plane ticket to Norway and start checking it out, seeing what's going on. We'll get on a ship and go to Hawaii if that's their first thing, to experience some cultural differences, and then branch out from there and fly from Hawaii to Japan, and then fly from Japan to Singapore, and then become part of the the Southeast Asia Prayer Center type stuff, and just really get involved. Just find your niche, find what God's calling you to do, and just continue to follow those paths that he's provided for you. I thank you for the wonderful things that you do in our lives, for the desires that you place in our heart, and I pray that you would help make it clear to each of the listeners today of how those desires coincide with what God has in store for us. Amen.
Amen. Guys, Mason is incredible. You can find all of his socials and everything in the show notes. Please take what he said, let it get inside, in your heart, in your mind, and go and share faith better. See ya.